All right, so we're going to start with the webinar. In this webinar, what we're going to talk about is Erasmus opportunities for Biodanza World. We're going to talk about two different types of funding. One is mobility, which means like going abroad. So Biodanza facilitators and Biodanza students can go abroad to do Biodanza within European Union. And another opportunity is a cooperation among organizations that are working with Biodanza. And afterwards, we're going to talk about some options for youth doing Biodanza, because there's a special program for youth in Erasmus. And at the end, I'm going to give you some tips of how to apply for Erasmus funding. Yeah. And in the end, we will have some options for questions and answers. So you can write your questions in the chat, and then I can answer as much as I can. Okay. So my name is Anca. Anca Dudau. I live in Tenerife. I'm originally from Romania. I have experience with Erasmus projects since 2008, and I'm organizing training courses for teachers. And since I'm a student in the Biodanza School Maresia here in Tenerife, and I attended the International World Congress in Italy, I got this idea, why not explaining about the Erasmus opportunities to the people doing Biodanza to see how it's possible to ask for Erasmus funds. And I'm counting with the support, and thanks a lot for the support of my director, school director Concha from here, and also of Markus Stuck, the director of the Baltic Biodanza School and founder of the International Biocentric Research Academy, who promoted this webinar in the International Congress. Yes. So thank you also for all the others who have shared about this opportunity, Elisa and many others. And I wanted also to say that I'm doing this like volunteering. I'm not an expert with Erasmus, and I'm also not expert in Biodanza. I'm just starting learning. So I will do my best to share as much as I can with you. So to start with, I'm going to say that all the information I'm going to tell you about, it's in the Erasmus program guide. It's a 460 pages document. So I did my best to make a summary to choose the most important information for you, so you can take a decision whether how you can use Erasmus for Biodanza. Afterwards, we will send you this presentation with all the links. So why Erasmus for Biodanza? Why did I get this idea? First, because in the International Congress, I got so inspired, and I saw that there's so many of you collaborating transnationally. So I thought, why not also get funding from Erasmus to have even more international cooperation between different Biodanza schools, association of facilitators, and different Biodanza facilitators. And also because I thought that going to do Biodanza abroad is quite costly, and not everyone can afford to go abroad to an international congress or to go to another country to do Biodanza. So Erasmus is a good opportunity for funding for those who don't have the budget to attend, especially maybe some disadvantaged groups. Maybe you work with seniors or with migrants, or you do Biodanza with different kind of social disadvantaged groups. So it's a good opportunity to give for everyone to do Biodanza, which is what Rolando Toro wanted. Yes. So why is Biodanza suitable for Erasmus? Because it's a match between Biodanza aims and some of the Erasmus priorities. For example, Erasmus has as priorities to promote inclusion and diversity, participation in democratic life, the environment, and also digital. So of course, this topic of inclusion particularly is very similar to what Biodanza suggests, no? Because Erasmus, for example, wants to break the barriers in the education, to work with people with health problems, to improve their health, with people with disabilities, cultural differences, social barriers. So different topics that I personally thought that Biodanza is a great method to work with towards these priorities. Yes, so that's why I thought that it's very compatible, with these funds. So just to clarify, there's no particular call for Biodanza in Erasmus, but it is for example, this topic of inclusion, biodiversity, inclusion and diversity. So we would just have to see if writing a project, how to match and to explain how the methods of biodanza work to solve these world problems. Yes, and I think it's easier to justify for this, right? So also because some of the important parts of Erasmus, like why does Erasmus give funding for organizations in Europe, is because it wants to promote this international dimension, yes, and also to provide health and safety for the participants, promote multilingualism, promote the respect for EU values. So all these are compatible with what we're doing in Biodanza. So very important question that many of you already asked, who can apply for Erasmus funds? Yes, so who can benefit from Erasmus funds? This is a very important question because it's not for individual persons, it's only for organizations, yes? So an organizations that have to do with education, yeah? If it's formal, informal, non-formal, it can be educational centers, it can be schools, like schools for biodanza, it can be companies, like if the School of Biodanza is in the name of a company, it can be NGO or association, if there's association of facilitators, foundations, youth organizations, public authorities, research institutes, and so many other types of organizations. So any organization that has to do with education or the social environment. And biodanza is some kind of form of education, yes? Who cannot benefit or who cannot apply? If you are a freelancer, then you cannot apply for these funds. Yes, so you need an organization to back you up. The same, if you're an individual person, if you're a biodanza facilitator, you cannot, like I as Anca, cannot ask for these funds. I need to collaborate with an NGO, with the organization, and so on. Yes, so it's important to have this into account that the biodanza schools are relevant for Erasmus, but they need to be legally registered. Yeah, officially registered for at least 2 years. And if you're not, it's not a problem, yes, because it's not, you can make partnership with other organizations in your local neighborhood, in regional level or national level, in order to get these funds, yes? Everything clear for now? If you have questions, you can ask them in the chat, and I will try to answer them at the end, okay? So summary, we need an organization, yes, to ask for the funds, yes? Then about Erasmus, they have different sectors. Probably many of you have heard Erasmus for the higher education, yeah, for the university levels, huh? Like student who comes from one country to another. But actually Erasmus has different sectors, yes? So two of the sectors we're gonna talk about is the adult education, so the education for people that are over 18, and the youth education, the field of youth, which is for youth between 13 and 30. But there's also school education for kindergartens, primary, secondary schools, high schools. So this is another sector, and vocational training as well, yes? With biodanza, we would be most relevant for the adult education, yes, because we do education with adults. Of course, if you're teaching biodanza in a school, then you can convince the school to write a project for their teachers and their and the students. Or if you are working in a school already or in a higher education university, then it's also possible, yes. So I will talk a bit more about this later. But this is important to broaden the perspective, and this is the purpose of the webinar, that Erasmus is not just for university students. Anyone from 0 to 90, 100 years old can benefit from Erasmus funds, yes? So I will talk mainly about two types of projects. There are many, many, as I mentioned, but I'll focus on two types of projects that I have most experience with. First is the K1, Key Action 1, Mobility for Individuals. So this is one type of project where, as you see in the image, for example, Italy would apply for a fund, Erasmus fund, to send their facilitators or students to different countries in Europe. So it's more unilateral. So only Italy has funds, and then it sends the people to different countries in Europe. The K2, Key Action 2, Partnerships for Cooperation, it's more a multilateral program, yeah, where there are 2, 3, 5, 10 institutions from different countries in Europe can collaborate. Yeah. If there are some people who are not from the European Union, I wanted to clarify that this program is particularly for organizations from Europe. However, there are other programs where we can cooperate with countries from outside of Europe. I don't have experience with this, but I know, for example, in youth in action, in youth exchanges, it is possible. And later on, I will talk about it. Okay, but it's the organizations in Europe that need to ask for the funds. So I'm going to start talking about the first option. Yes. So the mobility of individual. Yeah. So this kind of project is valid for adult education. So for the schools, Biodanza schools, or associations that work with adults, in school education and in vocational training. So in the same project, you can ask Erasmus grant for two things. One is mobility for staff. Here, they don't need to be employed staff. They can be volunteers or collaborators. Yes. So in our case would be Biodanza facilitators and school directors and didacts. Yes. And in the same project, you can ask for mobility for learners. Yes. So it would be Biodanza school students or Biodanza weekly group students. Yes. So in the same project, you can decide how many people you send for each. So a little bit about the procedure, yes. So there is a sending organization that has to be from EU, as we said, it has to be registered officially, yes. That needs to apply for funds for Erasmus. So the deadline is on 20th of February, but in some countries they also have a deadline 1st of October, and that's why we decided to do this webinar in August. So if some of you want to apply for October, you're still on time. Yes. So you apply for the fund, then you get the grant. It takes some months, and then you do the traveling, and you have to have a host organization. Yes, a host organization from a different country than your organization. So just to give you an example, it doesn't work for us, for example, from Tenerife, to ask for Erasmus funds to send people to Madrid because it's the same country. So we need to send from outside of Spain, yeah, to collaborate with a host organization from outside of Spain. Yeah. And after you do this mobility then and people return home, then you need to implement what you've learned locally. Now you can justify that. For example, you send people to do the workshop of 4 elements, and then they come locally and then they implement what they learned in their weekly biodanza sessions. And for these kind of projects, you can have maximum 30 participants, yeah? And you can distribute them in different countries. Later, I will explain. So I'll give you an example of a timeline. For example, if we apply in February 2025, yes? Next summer, we will get the results, whether the project has been approved, and hopefully it's gonna be approved. And it takes 1 or 2 months to sign the contract and receive. Usually we receive 80% of the budget from the national agency. Yeah? Then you can choose when to start the project. The project starts between September and December. And you can choose the duration of the project, if it's 6 months, 1 year, or 1 year and a half. After the project ends, 2 months after, you have to fill in a final report to explain that what you promised in the application, it's going to happen. It has happened. And then you have 1-2 months for this report to be approved, and then you receive the 20% of the budget when the national agency says, Erasmus says, yes, you have fulfilled your promises, and then we can give you the last budget. Yeah. So this is more or less the timeline. Of course, if you apply in October, it changes. But just to give you an idea that if you apply next week, that you cannot apply next week and do the traveling already this autumn. No, it takes some time. It takes some planning. Yes. So within the mobility, we have 5 funding options. These 5 funding options, you can include in the same project. So you write one project and you can choose which of these 5 funding options are suitable for you. The first one is training courses. Yeah. So, for example, 5 days workshop for biodanza facilitators. Another one is job shadowing visit. What does it mean, job shadowing visit? It means that, for example, the biodanza school from Italy wants to go to biodanza school from Austria to kind of meet and see how they work and get the first point of contact. Yeah, so it's usually 2-3 days where you meet and then you observe how they work and you take contact. Another opportunity is teaching abroad. This means that you can ask funds from Erasmus for your biodanza school. So your biodanza director or biodanza didact goes abroad to give, for example, a module or to give a special workshop to teach abroad. So here Erasmus gives you funding for the flights and for the accommodation, but it doesn't give you salary. Yeah, so you would need to find this in another way. The fourth funding option is inviting experts. This means that your biodanza school applies for a project, and then you can ask for funding to bring an expert, for example, from Belgium, a school director from Belgium, to come to your school to give a module or to give a special workshop or a special extension. Yeah? Same. Erasmus covers for flights and accommodation, but not anything else. And lastly, but not least, you have the options of workshop for school students and weekly students. This would be more similar to bio vacations. So it is a little bit of teaching, but it's also of intercultural exchange with students from the local country. Yeah. So I'm going to give you examples of each of these options. Yeah. Okay. So I'll try to see if we have some questions. Not yet. So a little bit about the budget. Yes. For example, for the training courses that I mentioned, you have a course fee for the host organization, which is €80 per day per participant. Yeah. So this is the money that if your biodanza school applies for the project, this is the money you would pay to the host organization. Yeah. Then you get what it's called in Erasmus individual support. Individual support stands for accommodation, food, local transport, insurance, everything that needs all the costs related to the mobility, to the travel. Yeah. And the money for this individual support depends from country to country. Yes. For example, for facilitators, for teachers, for staff, would be between 100 and 160 euro per day. Yeah. Then you get the organizational support, which means that your biodanza school gets 100 euro per participant in order to make this application, to the cost for the selection, for managing the project, no? For all the costs, the internal costs to make this project happen. Yeah? And then you get the funding for the travel, yeah, the flights and the travel from home to the airport. And again, this depend on the distance, yeah. So between 0 and 100 kilometers, there's a distance. Between 0 and 4,000 kilometers is another distance, and so on. Yeah? And for how long can be these training courses? Between 2 and 10 days. Usually it's 5 days. And it's a maximum of 8 days for participants. So Erasmus only gives the course fee for 10 days. So it can be 5 days to a course in a country and 5 days in another, or it can be 7 days in one country and that's it. Yeah? So this is relevant for example, a biodanza school or an association of facilitators to send the facilitators for training abroad. It can be, for example, to go to an extension, a biodanza extension abroad, or it can be for paying the didact in Milan, in Italy, no, to get in the training as didacts, or simply to go to a workshop abroad. What is important here is that for Erasmus, it's only important to issue a certificate of attendance. Yeah, so just attendance as vivencia. No, if you want to also get to do like an extension, then it's a different story. I mean, you can do it, but for Erasmus, you only need a certificate of attendance, some learning outcomes and so on, but it's pretty easy. So the second type of activity that I mentioned was the job shadowing visit. It's a bit similar. The only thing is that there's no fee for the host organization, but you have bigger organizational support to organize this visit. Yeah, and it's usually free 5 days, but it can, Erasmus says it can be up to 60 days. Yeah? The same for teaching abroad and inviting experts. There's no fee for the host organization. There's no salary. You only have the travel and the accommodation and food support, and you have this organizational support. Yeah? But this is interesting for inviting experts, inviting other biodanza school directors or facilitators to give a module or give a workshop in your biodanza school. And finally, for adult learners, which would be the Biodanza school students and Biodanza weekly students, the same. No fee for the host organization, but you have the €350 per participant for organizing this visit, which usually it's being shared between the sending organization and the host organization. So these were the 5 options for funding for mobility. Yes. Mobility is a Erasmus terminology, yeah. So it's important to remember. Key action 1, mobility. There's these 5 options that you can include in the same projects. And now I'm going to show you some examples. For example, the scenario: we have a Biodanza school from Italy. We'll write a project for 1 year, and in this project, this Biodanza school from Italy will plan the following: to send 12 facilitators from the school to 5 days training courses in Spain, Portugal, and Latvia. So there will be different amounts in each country. The Biodanza School from Italy wants to send, for example, 2 Biodanza didacts to free job shadowing visits. They want to see how the Biodanza schools in Czech Republic, Austria, and Holland work. Yeah, so they will do 3 different trips to these countries to get in touch with the schools from these countries. And in the same project, also plans to have 10 school students going to Spain for bio vacations. I mean, in Erasmus, we cannot say bio vacation because it doesn't find vacation, yes, but just so you understand, no? So for these school students, it's more workshops combination with culture experience, which is similar to what's done in the bio vacations. Yeah? Another scenario, for example, Association of Facilitators from Spain. Yeah? Would like to send 15 facilitators to 5 days training courses in Italy, Portugal, and Latvia. Yeah? 2 Biodanza didacts for 1 job shadowing visit to the Conservatory in Milan because they saw how they applied Biodanza in the Conservatory. 3 Biodanza facilitators to 1 job shadowing visit to University of Leipzig with Markus Stuck to see the latest research in Biodanza. And 10 school students to Italy for bio vacation. Just some examples so you get an idea of what a project could be about. Since there's more activity here, we can say that the duration of this project would be 1.5 years. Yeah? So you have to do all this traveling during this 1.5 years, and you choose when to do it. Yeah? Another scenario, for example, Biodanza School from Latvia wants to send 18 facilitators to 5-day training course like Biodanza workshops in Spain and Italy. 10 school students to Italy and 10 to Spain, and 2 didacts to Spain and Holland. No? So these are some examples of how it works. Let's say that all these schools get their project approved. So how could this collaboration work, for example? Could be that we can make a Biodanza extension in Spain. So we have the 5 facilitators from Portugal, 5 from Italy, and 5 for Latvia. And of course, we can invite local facilitators as well. They don't have funding from Erasmus, but they can participate. Or we can have bio vacations, like 10 facilitators from Spain, 10 from Latvia, and 10 from Italy. So it's just an idea to give you how we could use these funds in order to cooperate, yeah? Because the purpose of this webinar and of the WhatsApp group that we created was also to create opportunities of collaboration among us and among you, yeah? Just some examples to get, to make this theoretical knowledge more in practice. How could the project look like, yeah? If you have any questions, you can ask in the chat. Now I'm gonna go to the next part, which is the Erasmus accreditation. Yeah. So once we've done 1 or 2 projects like this, then there's an option for an accreditation, which is a multi-year plan. So you don't have to write the project every year. And what's interesting about this is that we can make as a consortium. Yeah. So for example, let's say that your Biodanza school already implemented 1 or 2 projects individually, and then wants to make a collaboration between 5 or 10 Biodanza schools from your country. Yeah. From Italy, or so then you would have different Biodanza school from Italy, like for example, like 5 Biodanza school from Italy together in the same project. Yeah. So then you would have, and then the number of mobilities is much bigger. Then you have bigger projects. Yeah? So you can make more efficient the work for writing this project. Yeah? But this is afterwards. This is after you already have an experience with at least 1 or 2 projects implemented. Yeah? So to summarize, I wanted to make also one of the questions that we received was who gets the funding? Yes. For adult, school, and vocational sectors, it's the sending organization that applies for the grant. It's the sending organization, so it's your Biodanza school or your association of facilitators or your organization, it can be any local organization that applies for the grant, and then you manage the accommodation, the food, or the accommodation you can also delegate it to the host organization and pay them. And for the courses, you pay the course fee to the host organization. For the youth sector, it is different. Yeah, it's the host organization that applies for the grant and then gives the money for the travel cost to the reimburses the participants. Yeah, so it's the host organization that gets the grant, manages the accommodation, a common accommodation for everyone, and then reimburse the travel cost for the participants. But later on, I'm going to talk a bit about the youth sector. Before that, I'm going to talk a bit. Oh yeah, so first it's about youth. Yeah, so as I mentioned before, we were talking so far for Erasmus for adults, for school and vocational sectors. Yeah, what I've been talking so far, it's valid for these sectors. And now I'm going to talk a bit more about the youth. That works a bit differently. So we have also different funding options for youth. I'm only going to speak about the first 2, the youth exchanges and the training for youth workers, because with the other 2, I don't have, it's new, they're new programs and I don't have so much experience. So the youth exchanges, it's a mix of workshops, exercises, and so on, where different youth from different countries get together. Yeah. So you have to have minimum 4 participants per group and 1 group leader. Yeah. So here there's an age limitation. This is one of the fewer programs where there's an age limitation because the young people have to have between 13 and 30. However, the group leader can be over 30. Yeah. So the exchange can be between 5 and 21 days, and the project the whole project can be between 3 months and 24 months. And you can have between 16 and 60 participants per youth exchange, per one activity. And there must be minimum two organizations from minimum 2 countries, but usually it is 4, 5, 6 countries. Yeah. So this is the type of program that I mentioned that can be interesting for involving organizations from outside of European Union. The regulation is that it's an organization from European Union that needs to apply for the funds, but one of these participating organizations, so minimum 4 participants and 1 group leader, can be from abroad, can be from Argentina or from Chile or from the United States and so on. It's a bit more difficult to get funds for involving people from outside of Europe, so you really need to justify why it's important to have cross-border collaboration. Yeah, I personally have not been involved in projects where countries from outside, from Latin America or from Asia or from Africa have been involved, but I know they exist. Yeah, so it's just a matter of getting informed about it. Yeah? So I'll leave you, of course, links about how you can read more about all these programs. But what is important here is why I wanted to share this is because it's a good opportunity for youth that maybe don't have the budget to do Biodanza abroad. So it's a good way to get funding. So the same Erasmus would fund for the travels and for the accommodation, and also an organizational fee for the organizational support for the organization, which is €125 per participant to organize this activity. Yeah. So, for example, just to give you an example, I like to use scenarios to make it a bit more tangible. Let's say an organization from Belgium that applies and gets the funding, then they can invite partners like from other organizations doing Biodanza with youth from Spain, from Norway, Netherlands, Italy, wherever. So 4 youth plus 1 group leader from each country. All these people, 20 persons, would go to Belgium to do workshops in Belgium. Yeah. So it can be 5 days or more days and so on. And in the same project, you can do more of this activity, not only one. Yeah. Up to 60. Yeah. Second scenario, for example, organization from Italy chooses to have a project from Spain and Colombia, and then they can argue the proximity with language or whatever. Yeah, so you need to argue why you invite organizations from outside of European Union. Yes. Again, it's the host organization from Italy that would get the funding and then would reimburse the colleagues from Spain and from Colombia in the travel. And then the host organization would arrange the accommodation and the food. Yeah. So we go to the next funding option, which is training for youth workers, because this is very interesting. That could be valid for biodanza facilitators who do biodanza with youth. It's interesting because there's no age limit. Yeah? So in this case, it's an opportunity for training the biodanza facilitators that work with youth, and it can be an activity that up to 50 participants. Yeah. So there's another question that we've received is like, if I'm from another country from European Union, let's say Chile, and I live in Belgium, can I participate in an Erasmus project in Europe? Yes, as long as you're residents in the country of their sending organization or receiving organization. And you have to have a link with the organization. So it can be volunteer or facilitator enrolled in a school, in a biodanza school, and so on. So individuals that don't have European Union citizenship can attend and benefit from Erasmus as long as they have residency in the country in the European Union. And they can justify why they're related to this organization. Yeah. So it can be that in Germany, just to give another example, a Biodanza school from Germany decides to do training for Biodanza facilitators working with youth, and invites Biodanza facilitators from different countries from Europe to go to Germany for 7 days workshop on this. Okay? So we've talked about the first category so far, the mobility for individuals. Yeah. So we've talked about how it applies for adults and how it applies for youth. So this is the first category of Erasmus projects. And now I'm going to talk about the second category, which is the partnerships for cooperation. Yeah? So these partnerships of cooperations are a bit, as purpose is to create tangible results. Yeah. For example, they can create innovative, tangible products, like, for example, a mobile app for facilitators to use to manage reservations for the regular class. And then this result must be free access to everyone. Yeah? Or developing a mobile app to manage better the biodanza music. Or create a e-learning platform with training materials and so on. Yeah? Or online training course on biodanza applied to people with multiple sclerosis or another health problem, or many examples. Yeah, but in general, we need to we get different biodanza schools, or not only biodanza. You can involve universities, you can involve research institutes. For example, if you do a project about, for example, seniors, you can involve biodanza schools and senior organizations together to get to investigate and think of solutions how biodanza can be applied to active aging and working with seniors. Yeah? So within these projects, we can still organize training abroad. So we can still travel with our facilitators abroad to test, but the purpose is to test these developed materials or tools or training. And what is interesting also that we can use this type of project to research on biodanza, yeah, to research on what is the impact of biodanza in different ways, yeah. So, for example, Markus Stug, that is promoting the BioNet research. I encourage you to check it. You can get to see different types of research on biodanza and advancing the knowledge on how biodanza is impacting, what is the benefits of biodanza, and so on. Yeah. So there are many, many different possibilities. There are two types of such cooperation. There's the small scale, like smaller, where there's minimum two partners from 2 EU countries, and they're fixed budgets, like 30,000 euro or 60,000 euro, and the duration is between 6 months and 2 years. And then there's the cooperation partnerships, where there's bigger funding and also more partners. No, it can be 5, 6, 10 partners. Yeah. So this was a bit about the two types of projects, like the K1 mobility, yeah, and then the partnership for cooperation. And now I'm going to tell you a bit some tips about how to apply. One of the first tips is to start early. That's why we start with this webinar now, because if you want to apply for October or even better, like in February or March, then you need some time to do the planning. Yeah, if the deadline is 20th of February, it's not realistic to start working in January or February. You need to start slowly get informed about this early. Then we recommend to create a team to write a project. It's best if you team up with someone who has already written some projects before, maybe not Erasmus, other projects, but you need to have someone in the team who is familiar with asking for funds. Yeah. And again, of course, I personalized this webinar to biodanza schools, but it's not obligatory that it's only for biodanza schools. You can involve other associations that have already experience with Erasmus. I would also recommend you to get familiarized with the terminology, with the Erasmus words. So you can do this by reading different Erasmus documents, like the Erasmus Guide, different recommendations from the European Union, and there are different documents that talk about the topic that you're interested in, for example, social inclusion or environmental topic, and so on. It's also very important to understand the requirements, what do you need to, like, what are the criteria for giving these projects, to make sure that you're eligible, that they take into account your application. And the sixth is very, very important to align your Erasmus project with the Erasmus priorities. Yeah, so Erasmus has certain objectives. There's a reason why they give these funds, and you need to understand why they give these funds. What is important for European Union? What is important for Erasmus? I talked a bit, I showed you some example on the topic of social inclusion. So you need to choose one of these priorities for each program. For youth, there are some priorities. For adults, there are some priorities. For the school education, there are some priorities. So you need to read exactly which are the priorities and then align the topic of your project. And then based on this, you need to make your idea, to narrow down and structure your idea, no? So to make it as concrete as possible, with concrete and measurable objectives. And then you have to think and argue in your project, why is your idea innovative? Why? I mean, for us, it's super easy. Why biodanza is an innovative and helpful tool for reaching the objectives and creating a better world. Yeah? But you need to write why. Why is this? Why is it? Because it's not done in conventional education. Because in the formal system, we don't train or we don't do this. So it's important to argue why. And for biodanza, it's very easy because it is indeed an innovative methodology and way of doing things. And you also have to justify your institution needs. Yeah, why your biodanza school or your association for facilitator needs to apply for Erasmus to get fund to go abroad. Why? Well, you can argue that it will broaden the horizon of your facilitators if they if they go abroad and get to know other culture, you can argue that it will increase their capacity to then afterwards be even better at their biodanza teaching. That it's important to exchange knowledge and best practices, etc., etc., etc. Yeah. And the last but not least, you need to explain the impact, like how this traveling or doing a workshop abroad will impact your local activities. You're giving the module and or your ANSA weekly group. You know, how it will impact? Well, because I'll go to Italy and I will learn about how they apply biodanza in this sector, and then I'm going to come home and then I will do biodanza with this target group with disadvantages in my local community. Yeah? And also, how do you disseminate about this project? Erasmus, of course, it's a funding, and they want to make sure that people know that this travel has been funding with Erasmus and that you share about these opportunities. Yeah? So these are some beginners level tips on how to apply for funds. And for now, I think we have some time for questions. I'm gonna send you the PowerPoint presentation with the links. So I selected some of the most useful links from everything that I've been talking about. So you can go and read the official sources of Erasmus about what I've been talking about, and the glossary of common terms to get used to this terminology of Erasmus. And what's next? I would suggest to stay in touch with the WhatsApp group for future opportunities of collaboration. Maybe we're going to do a webinar later on. Maybe those who are really interested in taking into consideration to apply, then we can have a meeting and see if we can collaborate. Or yeah, it's open for suggestions. Also, for those, if there are any of you who already work in educational institutions like schools or NGOs or other education institutions, you can, and you want to already send to bring biodanza to your colleagues, there's an option also, no? So it's not only for biodanza school, it's also for all kinds of education institutions. Here in Tenerife, we already organize training courses for teachers, and my vision in a few years would be to coordinate with the different school directors here, and then maybe to see if there's a possibility to organize with Erasmus different biodanza workshops here. So it's a long-term idea, and we'll see what happens. For now, I just wanted to spread this information and this opportunity, and I will open the microphone for questions. Since we're not that many people, I think maybe it's easier if we just do it vocally. Let's see if I see. Yeah. So think about what questions you would like to ask. If you have any doubts about what I talked about, or if you would like to know more, or so on. Yeah. So we're trying to open the microphones for everyone. Yeah, it's allowed. It's because I stopped them at the beginning, but if not, you can write them in the chat. This is also an option. Okay. Okay, so you need to unmute yourself. So if you want to speak up, you need to unmute your microphone manually and then ask the questions you want to ask. Who paid for? Yeah, Daniela?
Hi, I'm Daniela.
We cannot hear you. Or I cannot hear you.
Sorry? Sorry?
It's working?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm a didacta from Biodanza Didacta with the School of Piemonte in Italy. And my question is related to, if there are already experience related with this Erasmus funds in every
Sorry,
Europe,
for some reason I was kicked out. Sorry. So Daniela, can you repeat, please?
Okay.
I cannot
My
hear
question
you.
is related if
What
they
about
are
now?
already experienced with
No?
this Erasmus fund.
Can the other hear you? Can you hear? You can hear, and I'm the only one who doesn't hear.
I can hear her.
Okay, can you put the sound on, please? Sorry.
I can try
Technical
to
issues.
again. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Chiara. Oh, okay, Antoine. No, my question is related if they're already experienced in Europe with this Erasmus fund, or this is the first time in which we are approach this kind of possibility.
Yes, Erasmus exists since the 90s with different names. So there's definitely a lot of experience with these funds. It's not something new. This funding category, as it is from 2021 to 2027, but it has existed since, I don't know, 80s or 90s. However, I don't know if any of the people here have had experience with Erasmus and the Biodanza in particular. Yeah. But this is not a new funding opportunity. What I think it's new is to bring this funding opportunity for the Biodanza world. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, last chance for questions.
Someone raised their hand.
Yes, Lenny, please.
Hey. Anca, hello everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, thank you so much, Anca, for this opportunity, for all the information that you're giving us. It's brilliant. I'm Lenny, director of Escuela Ayun in Castellón in Spain. Okay, one simple question. I am autonomous freelance, okay? So can I apply for this, or how is it possible for me to apply as a freelance, as a autonomous in Spain?
Yes, so as I mentioned, for Autonomo, it's not possible to apply directly. So you need to partner with either create an association with different facilitators, yeah, or partner with another local organization, or collaborate with the Association of Facilitators in Spain. These are the options. So as an autonomo, as a freelancer, it's not possible to apply for the funds. If you have a company, an SL company, then yes. An enterprise, a company, it's possible. Yeah. But as a freelancer, as far as I know, it's not possible. Yeah. This is the limitation.
If it is through an association, then it has to have 2 years of experience. Yeah, you said 2 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It should be registered for 2 years.
Okay, register for 2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So it's a matter of searching. If you don't have the setup yet, you can create already for the future and then try to do networking and collaboration with either association or it doesn't have to be Biodanza. Like, for example, my association is an educational association called Eduplus. So maybe, for example, my school director is also autonomous or freelancer. So maybe we can create a cooperation. So then we can ask the funds for my organization, and then we have a local partnership with the local school here. Yeah. So it doesn't, even if it's about Biodanza, it doesn't have to be the association on the name of Biodanza. It can be on any, not anything. Of course, it has to be relevant. Yeah. You have to argue the organization needs to argue why it needs to do something with biodanza. Yes.
Okay, it's clear for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone else? Chiara? Yes, you need to unmute yourself.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you for today, Anca. I have two questions. One is, so if I work for a company that would love for me to promote biodanza with them, and they are in a foreign country, so they can apply for me to travel abroad to promote biodanza in their company?
Yes. So there are two options in this case. It's either you, Chiara, from like find an organization. So you as Chiara cannot apply for funds. Yes. You need to find an organization in your country that applies for funds to send you abroad to do biodanza in another country. Or the company from that country can apply for funds to invite an expert from abroad to do teaching in their country.
Right. So as an expert, what do you mean? Like a facilitator? Can we invite you?
Expert is the Erasmus terminology. So as a facilitator, exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the second question is, the company for whom we work, can they pay for our training in a different country as a biodanza facilitator to get more training? So they apply for funds for us to get training in another country.
So let's make it concrete. For me, it's always easier with examples. So you're in Italy, yes? And
yes.
In which country you want to go?
Right. So I work for an American company, and they want to teach biodanza over there, and then they can pay for my course as a didacta in Europe, in another country. If they apply as a company, I work for them. Does it make sense?
First of all, an organization from the US cannot apply for Erasmus funds because Erasmus is an organization from the European Union.
Oh, okay.
The only what I mentioned was that if an organization wants to bring participants from abroad here. But just in case this question is relevant for the others, let's imagine that your company would be in Germany, yeah? So you're in Italy and you want the company from Germany to write a project to pay for your training in Italy. It's not possible. So the German company or organization would ask for funds for the German facilitators or the German students to go abroad.
I see.
Yeah. The only exception that would be for Italy would be if to invite you as an expert, like as a biodanza facilitator from Italy, to go to Germany and give lessons in Germany.
Okay, I got you. Thank you.
Does it make sense? Yeah. Yeah. So what is possible is, like, for example, an organization from Germany or from Belgium to apply for funds in Belgium, for example, an organization from Belgium, apply for funds from Belgium to pay for the didact training in Italy for some facilitators. This is possible. But what is not possible is that for the Belgium organization to pay for Italian participants, yeah? Because if you want to pay for the Italian participants, then it's an Italian organization that needs to pay, yeah? The only exception is what I mentioned, it's the youth project, when you organize the training, and then it's the host organization that pays for the different participants. Yeah.
Right. And last thing, do you know how it works with England right now?
Yes. England UK cannot benefit from Erasmus anymore, but they have issued a national alternative touring scheme. I can put the text in the WhatsApp group. So there's a touring scheme for UK level, which is similar to Erasmus, and then there's a tithe program for Wales only. So they have a similar functioning. There are some differences, but so it is possible to fund biodanza for people from UK to go abroad. Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, if not, yeah, Daniela?
Okay. Only the last question for me. Regarding the writing the project, you mentioned before that it is important to use the terminology or the Erasmus terminology. Then I ask you if there are some places in which we can learn how to write this kind of project, in the sense that using the right terms.
There is, I mean, it's not a requirement to use the right terms, no, but it increases the possibility to get your project approved. Yeah. So
Okay.
in each country, the way it works is that the European Union has the money. Yeah. And in each country, there's what is called a national agency. Yeah. So this Erasmus national agency is national. So for example, in Italy, it's called Indire. And then you would contact this institution and they usually organize trainings on how to write these projects. Or the national organization in Belgium, they organize trainings and then you need to contact the national agency in Belgium. Yeah. And yeah, so it's trial and error, like everything, no? So you try and do your best, you contact people who already know, and then you can always call them and ask for help to your with your application. Yeah.
Okay.
Or
Okay,
what you can do is to get in contact, as I said, with someone who already know how to write. And yeah, there are also people who dedicate themselves to write these projects. I'm not one of them, no, I'm not expert in writing projects, no, but there are people who have this as a job, and then you of course make an agreement with them, and this is also an option.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. More questions?
Maybe I do have one, if I can.
Yes, Laura?
Yes, hello. Thank you for the presentation. I was just thinking if I understood it correctly. Is it right that there wasn't yet an organization of Biodanza that contacted Erasmus, or has it already happened?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I haven't
Okay.
heard of it, but I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
there are 27 countries in Europe, and I don't know if
Yeah.
maybe some of the, but as far as I know, not.
Okay, because I was thinking, wouldn't it be a little bit more practical maybe if like maybe the IBFED organization of Biodanza would first contact maybe in one country, the Erasmus project, just to introduce Biodanza like as an organization, like a big organization, rather than just a school or a director, because I think it would have more strength, like in general. So that was my question, like this didn't happen yet, or yeah, it would be
I don't know
interesting,
if
I
it
guess.
happened. I don't know if it happened. At the
Yeah.
same time, this would be a different type of project. It's called centralized projects, and this like bigger project that IBFED would ask directly to Brussels money. No, so this is like we're talking about much larger scale projects. So this is possible. Yeah, IBFED can of course do that. Yeah, but at the same time, with this funding, these types of funding that are small quantities, it's meant for this small organization.
Yeah.
These Erasmus funds are dedicated for the small organizations. Yeah. And introducing Biodanza, I mean, you can even write a project without naming Biodanza. No, you can just write a project mentioning all the benefits and all the objectives, and that it's non-verbal methods. It's not even compulsory to mention Biodanza. So it's for Erasmus, it's not necessary to really explain what Biodanza is, as long as you justify a little bit why it's this new method or new way of doing things. Yeah. So I don't think it's a big difficulty to argue for Erasmus why this methodology is innovative and it's worth. Like it's not. Don't have this as an obstacle, because it's easy to argue why. I mean, Biodanza has so many benefits, and yeah, it's easy to argue.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
But of course, if you want to contact IBFED and suggest them to as an international level to ask for funds, it would be amazing. But knowing how bureaucracy and how the big structures and so on, it's not so easy. Yeah? I think it's much easier and more probable for a small organization to ask for these funds than at a bigger scale, or at least to start with. Yeah. Yes, Joanna?
Hello. I was thinking that a lot of schools in some countries, regular schools from the regular curriculum, have biodanza being implemented, and maybe it was interesting. Some of those schools perhaps already develop Erasmus projects and already have that knowledge of writing the projects. And it would be interesting, I think, perhaps starting there with projects not from biodanza schools, but from schools who have biodanza, and connecting them in some countries. I'm saying this because I'm a facilitator, but I'm also a teacher, and my school has Erasmus projects, has had many Erasmus projects, and I think and has biodanza now, has weekly classes of biodanza now. Not now because it's the summer vacation, but well, in school year. So it would be interesting. I was thinking about, I don't know, Alejandro, if your schools or also the schools in which you are involved also work with Erasmus projects, but it would be interesting to put them like to build a project starting from those schools with already have experience.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Well, actually, I'm here because of this, because in my knowledge, there's no school yet here in Europe taking advantage of the Erasmus project, and that's why I'm so interested of it. So, far as I know, there is not a school who did a project like this. Like, I mean, us as director, we are very ocupado, busy doing other stuff. So I'm very interested about this Erasmus project, and I want to say I'm available to share this project with someone, to do a multilateral thing, but at the same moment I'm very busy as many directors doing many stuff. So but I think it's also a way to involve didacticians and teachers and students in order to help us to take advantage of it. So that's what I like very much. Your explanation, Anca, was so perfect and beautiful and very clear. Thank you because of that also. And I'm happy Laura, who she's part of my staff, is here also present because she is very clever and she will suck this knowledge, and maybe projects will be starting now. So someone need to start this, a school need to start this, and I like to be part of it. So yeah, we need to make this to happen. But far as I know, to end with your question, I don't know of any school in Europe who already did this of biodanza. I didn't knew we could be eligible to do this, and thank you, Anca, to told us we can do this. And yeah, in our case, we have a school with an association. We have recognition of the government because of it, and we have some help already of the government to pay our venues and stuff like that. So I think it's not so far for us to be able to put a project to write this down, to see what we want to do, what kind of project we want to do. So this is a knowledge we need to build together as a community, I mean.
So thank you both. First of all, congratulations for bringing biodanza to the conventional schools. I think it's a great work. this is a big step. And of course, I agree that it would be much easier to start learning how this works. You get in contact in your local neighborhood with organizations that already work with Erasmus. This would be much easier to do this. So there are a database like the Erasmus project results, where you can search for schools in your region, or not only schools, but nonprofit organizations, also foundations, or you can write your city and Erasmus in Google and see, first identify in your city, in your region, which are the schools or organizations that already work with Erasmus, and you can suggest them to involve Biodanza in a project. Yeah, so this is a very good idea. This is what we also plan to do, because I have experience with Erasmus and I want to propose collaboration to the school directors here in Canary Islands, which I agree with Alejandro, they're also very busy. So the idea is also how to delegate, that it's not the school directors themselves maybe that who manage this, but as you said, Alejandro, maybe it's the interest of the school students to travel abroad. So maybe they can get involved in this project writing, because it's their interest to travel abroad, yeah, to go. So it's a way to also motivate the school students, no? And Joanna, if you want, we can already get in touch, because if your school already works with Erasmus, then we can talk about, because we already plan to, we organize courses for teachers already for almost 5-6 years on different topics like social inclusion, creative teaching techniques, nonverbal methods, theater techniques, things that are kind of related, and it's a high demand for this. So the plan is in a few years or in a year to also offer such courses related to Biodanza here in Tenerife. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I would like that very much.
Yeah. So as I said, those who are interested in the collaboration, please write to me, and then we can see how we can, for the deadline in February, maybe we can find someone to help us with writing a project, and then see how we can collaborate, because yeah, each of us is busy in our job. I have my own job, so I'm also busy. I wanted to do this webinar, but everyone is busy with their thing. But if we find, I'm sure we can find a way to make it happen. Yeah, and at the beginning it's more difficult, but then once we learn how it works, then it's more easy. Last questions? If not, thank you so much for your participation. It was a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time for this. And I hope to meet you in person at some point with some Erasmus or not Erasmus opportunity. Some of you already know. And yes, it would be great to collaborate at some point with Erasmus, or not. The world is big, so there are many opportunities.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you
You're
very
brilliant,
much.
Anca.
Thank you very much, Anca.
Kiss everyone. Bye.
Super
Ciao.
interesting
Bye, everyone.
information and organization. Ciao.
Ciao.
Thank you.
so
Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Anca. You're so
Besito,
clear.
Lenny.
Nos vemos prontito, Alejandro.
Abrazo.
Abrazo a todos. Chao, chao.
Ciao.